Hey guys, just finished watching Arrow Season 6, Episode 17, Brother in Arms. This episode was interesting, dealing with the whole John Diggle and every storyline, John Diggle and Oliver and all that stuff storyline. It was quite interesting with that. I mean, we start off with this episode with Anatoly getting arrested by Diaz with help of between Oliver and John and stuff. They're helping her out as the Arrow and stuff there, and then it was really interesting with that, and then but he immediately gets out of prison when Ricardo Diaz got him out of prison using all his connections and stuff. And then Oliver tells John that he's not giving up the hood, and he didn't want to give it to him yet. He wants to stay as the Green Arrow. But then we find out that being the Green Arrow meant a lot to John, and he didn't really want to give it up, but he doesn't admit it to Oliver just yet. And Oliver ends up firing the police chief and the lawyer. I forget the name of it, but he ends up firing pretty much as Dinah's boss. He ends up firing them since they're corrupt and they're working for Ricardo Diaz. Then Black Siren is getting a text from Ricardo Diaz. We see that as we see a scene between Black Canary and or Black Siren, and she's staying at the Quinton's place, and he suggests to kind of start reading some of Laurel's books, law books and stuff, so she could become a lawyer just like Laurel was. And it's really going to be cool to see where things go with that, especially, she gets the text and it looks like she's kind of still working, obviously with the ending stuff too. It looks like she's definitely working for Ricardo Diaz, working with Ricardo Diaz. And then Oliver and Felicity finds out one of the Vertigo dealers, drug dealers, and where they get. He's trying to ask him where do they get the import and stuff, and that's when the Vertigo dealer gets killed. And this is where John kind of just loses it and starts kind of yelling at Oliver afterwards. And we get Diaz kind of shows up at Lance's place with to see Black Siren, but she doesn't look like she's really interested to seeing him there. It's kind of weird to see why is she there, why is she hanging out there, and why is she she's not happy to see him there. She's kind of wanting to do a good pass, but then she goes bad, and at the end it's kind of all mixed up as to why was she kind of not wanting him there, but at the end it looked like she was planted the whole thing. I guess she didn't want her cover to be blown while she's hanging out with Lance. And it'd be cool to see more on their relationship as things go on, as things move on from here. Then Oliver and Diggle start having a screaming match at their place and in the bunker. It all breaks out into a fight when Oliver brings up, they start throwing different things at each other. And then Oliver starts a fight when he brings up the fact that John killed or Diggle killed his brother type thing, and he's never done anything like that. And that kind of starts a huge fight out that Felicity ends up breaking it up. But then they're able to go out into the field together, and they're okay. They're okay for a little bit, but the fight just kind of throws everything over the edge. And then we see Curtis and Dinah. They're on their own thing, their own mission kind of type thing, and Dinah has recruited a group of cops that are not the only cops that are not dirty. And then shots get fired and that type thing, and Curtis jumps in front of the shot. He gets shot, but he's fine because he was wearing his Mr. Terrific shirt and his Mr. Terrific jacket, and his boyfriend finds out about it, and they continue on, and they deal with that. And so it's interesting with Curtis and his boyfriend. His boyfriend is able to kind of sympathize with him and kind of agrees with him, and doesn't really hate vigilantes. At first he said he did, but then he doesn't, especially when he gets fired, like he says, for being a good cop. He gets fired for being a non-corrupt cop. And it's interesting to see where things will go with that relationship and how things are going to continue on from there. And then at the end we get the big reveal that John Diggle leaves Oliver as a team, and he says he just wants to leave him. So it's unclear if he's going to go, work with the other team, the other team, the Outsiders are going to call them. But also his wife there offers him a job at Argus. And I was thinking about that when he was leaving Oliver. If he's leaving the team, is he going to go fight on his own? Is he going to work for Argus? I think it'd be cool to see him working for Argus, and I think it'd be quite interesting to see him working for Argus, because then you could have him on multiple different shows. Having him working for Argus, he could do his own stuff. He could be like, I just need to get away from the city right now. What does Argus have? What does Argus have to do in other places, other times and stuff? And I think it'd be quite interesting, and I think it'd be quite fun for season. Going into season 7 of Arrow, season 4, since all their shows have been renewed for another season. Having John Diggle over and working for Argus could be quite interesting. The Legends could pick him up for an episode or two, and then he could go do a few episodes here, then jump over into Flash and say he need to do his stuff, just to kind of let him clear his head, and he can go all around and just be kind of an actor who just be a character who could just be dropped in all over on different shows. And I think it'd be really cool to see that going into another season of the Arrowverse. I think having a character that kind of completely goes from one episode to the next, because there's a 3 episode arc on this show, then there's a 3 episode arc on that show, or bouncing back and forth, 2 episodes here, 3 episodes there, 4 episodes there, 2 episodes there, 1 episode here, and just kind of bouncing all throughout all the shows. I think it'd be quite interesting to do that. I think it'd be quite cool to see, and seeing Oliver and seeing Diggle at least kind of away from Arrow for a bit, bouncing back and forth between Flash, Legends, all kinds of shows like that. It could be quite fun to see where things go, and I think it really good is going to be cool to see, and hopefully they could keep this kind of dynamic, this kind of frustration between everyone, kind of keep the fight apart, keep the team separated, keep everything going down, and then only bring them back together during the crossover. And I think having them, giving everyone some time apart, the rest of this season and the first half of next season until the crossover, and have Barry or have one of the Legends be one of the reasons to help bring everything back together type thing. And I think it'd be quite interesting to see that, and having having Diggle over on the Flash and over on Legends next season, and bouncing around just all the way before the mid-season final, because the mid-season is usually around when they do the crossover just before Christmas break, and then we have one more week before, and then we have one more week where is the Christmas break type of thing. That's usually how we kind of do it, and I think it'd be quite interesting to see as we get to that point. It's usually kind of like before the mid-season stuff, and the back half of the seasons are usually focused on their season. So I think it could be quite interesting to see that, to see where Diggle goes, and having him jump around, and having him and Argus kind of going around, maybe helping Legends in one episode, going around helping this and that. I think it'd be quite interesting to see different things and seeing where things go. I think it'd be quite interesting to see that. It'd be quite cool to see a character like Diggle jumping around different places and stuff. But with next week's episode looking like we, at least in the trailer for next week's episode, we get Felicity telling Oliver, "Oh, I need a break," type thing. So it kind of seems like everything is building up to the point where things are going to maybe get reconciled for the end of this season, and maybe we'll go into next season with everyone back together. And I hope that we don't do that. I hope that we don't get the other team, everyone back together, and Oliver apologizing to everyone and everything, bringing everyone back together. I could see that's the way they want to go. I just like it more when we get an outsider's opinion of like the Arrow of Flash's, Barry's point of view of the whole team. What does Cisco think of this whole scenario? What does Iris? What does Caitlin? What does Sarah Lance? What does Sarah? Definitely would love to see Sarah's opinion on this. But if I'm not mistaken, Katie Lotz did tweet it out, or did send on Instagram that she will be appearing again on Arrow in their season finale, but it's unclear whether or not it could I would assume it would just be in a flashback way, based on, we'll have to wait and see how things end over on next week on Legends. But I mean, she's not going to be actually in the episode. It'll just be a flashback version of her, where she'll be in the episode doing that. I think that could be quite interesting to see what type of flashbacks we get with that, or I'd be really surprised if we did actually bring her in, since we haven't had a flashback in a long time. So I think it's going to be cool to see where things go with all this, and see how things kind of continue on. I think it's quite interesting to see the whole relationship between Oliver and Diggle. It's been going on for so long. Part of me is hoping that, I'm not sure if their contracts are getting up. I mean, obviously, as things go on, if I'm not mistaken, remember back in Smallville, Michael Rosenbaum's contract only went up to season 6, so I think after season 6 he was done. He didn't want to come back type thing, and he didn't sign on. So I'm not sure if is David Ramsey's contract kind of running up. I mean, Will Holland is leaving. They're gonna have David Ramsey leave. I think having him leaving Arrow would be okay, but leaving the entire universe, Arrowverse, would be kind of a no-no, because he's been around since the beginning. He's been around like for so many episodes. it would just be a shame to have him leave completely. But like I said, having him jump over into other shows and stuff, getting some time away from Oliver could be a really good way to kind of have him get another perspective on this things, and kind of distancing himself from this could be quite interesting to see that. And having him on, doing stuff with Argus could be cool to see him doing his own thing and doing different stories and different missions, and having it pop up on other shows could be quite cool as he plays around as he does his own stuff working for Argus. So I think it could be quite fun to see that. So all in all, I think this episode, which is an interesting episode, I like the idea where they're going, but like I said, hopefully it's not like a filler episode, because he's kind of fighting in between the team episodes. It just feels like it's kind of distracting us from the overall, Ricardo Diaz storyline. But I think, like I said, if it goes into next season, if this kind of the breakup of the teams and all that stuff, and Oliver now being almost on his own, not only has Felicity on his side, and even that looks like it's set up for next season, at least next episode's could be on the fringe type thing. I really hope that we don't have all this stuff, all this breakup of the teams and all that stuff fixed by the end of the season type thing. I hopefully it falls into, and the the after effects continue on. We get the effects of it still going into season 7 by still having the teams separated. So I think it could be cool to see. And I like the idea. Hopefully, I'd like to see some of these characters appear on different shows. I think it'd be the idea of doing that for next season could work. I mean, having Dinah jumping on other shows wouldn't really work, because she's obviously police for this. She couldn't really go too much. She could go like an episode here or there, over to Flash if she needs to get some information from CCPD or anything like that. But having her permanently, or having her for multiple episodes jump around, wouldn't really work with her working for obviously the Star City Police. But having John Diggle, who's working for the Argus, that could be really an opportunity to have him jump all around, seeing him go all kinds of places, and maybe at some point getting picked up by the Legends, and to use him as an episode or two. It's like, oh, we need your help with this or that, type of thing. I think that could be a cool thing to see, having that play with it, and bringing back the relationship between, where is Diggle's relationship with Sarah? How is that at? Where is that at? We haven't seen their relationship in a long time. They haven't really had any scenes together since Sarah left Arrow back in a long time ago. Can't think of it, but it was season 3 or season 4 of Arrow when she left. For Legends of Tomorrow. So I think it's been a while since we've had a scene with those two, and I think it'd be quite interesting to see that and see how people's relationship has been. I think the opportunity of having him this definitely gives him an opportunity to jump around and see him on different shows. So let me know what you think, guys. Put this episode in the comments below. What do you think about it? Where would you like to see the characters go like this? And then would you like to see John Diggle for next season jumping around from show to show? How would you like to see him used like that, or would you like to see him sticking here? Because I feel like if we're sticking here, we don't really follow Argus too much. So I'd be curious to see, are we going to follow now for next season if he doesn't reconcile with Oliver and back on the team, which I think it would be kind of disappointing, because we don't have many episodes left for the rest of the season. We're already in episode 17, so I feel like it would be better to go into season 7 without him part of working with Oliver. And I think with Argus, we don't really see too much what they do. We always get mentions of them, mentions of this. We don't see too much unless it's really, like, they rarely get an episode where Argus is heavily involved, unless John is involved. So I could be interested to see if we get to see, are we going to follow 3 different storylines? Oliver and Felicity and what they're doing next season, and then the outsiders, Dinah and Mr. Terrific and Wild Dog, what they're doing, and then third storyline every episode of what Diggle's doing with Argus. I don't know. I think it would be a bit much having 3 storylines like that in every episode. And I think the idea of having him, of just having Oliver and then the other team, and then having Diggle maybe on the Flash or on Legends, I think it'd be a interesting idea. And I think throwing him on Legends would be a cool idea to really get him to kind of open himself up, even if it's just for like the first a couple of episodes before the crossover, and then the crossover happens, and that's where everything gets reconciled. So I'm hoping that all this kind of in-team fighting could kind of get reconciled from outside opinions, by Sarah, by Flash. I think different people like that could be quite interesting to see their opinions and see how things could go to reconcile this in the team. So it's really going to be interesting to see where things go with this. This episode on its own, I think it was okay. It was an interesting episode. I'm just hoping that kind of the fallout kind of really matters. If we go into season 7 and everything's back to normal and all the teams back together, John's back on the team, especially if just John Diggle's back on the team, then it makes this specific episode kind of a waste. If everyone is totally together and even the other team, I could see that being like, but I don't see how the other team, Dinah and Curtis and all them, how can they come back to the team if John doesn't come back to the team type thing. So I think it's really interesting to see where things go with all that and how things kind of get resolved. But I'm hoping that all this kind of just kind of flows over to next season, because having them, another big battle, another big alien invasion, whatever the next big thing is going to be for next year's crossover, it's always so impactful, and it's so moving and brings everyone together, because they have to fight it, just like the Avengers are going to have to come together to fight Thanos. No matter what problems they have between each other, they all have to be put aside to fight this bigger threat. And I think having the crossover is a perfect opportunity to do that. Again, then at the end, getting some some outsiders' opinions on this whole matter. I think it'd be quite interesting to see, because all you really need is a few people kind of commenting on their fight at the beginning of the crossover, and a little comment at the end of the crossover, which make them all think, and then you get, after the crossover, you get everyone back together. All it takes is a few comments by some other characters, at the beginning and end, and that's it, and that's all. And it really kind of helps bring everything all together. And I love when they do that, and they use other characters, use other shows to kind of fix their problems, and it really makes it feel like a really super connected show. So I think it's really going to be cool to see where things go with this, how things are going to continue with this all in season 7. So let me know what you think, guys, about this in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have.
Subscribing.
Sometimes subscribing is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing. How many more of these?
You're still here.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Peace.
It's over.